Richmond Community Church wasn't always what it is today. In the summer of 1993, Pastor Rick moved his family to Richmond to start RCC. In the first days of the church, the small group began by meeting in a basement of a house on Old Washington Highway.
It was certainly a challenging beginning for us to start Glen Allen Community Church that became Richmond Community Church. We came into a city that had never had a contemporary church. We were starting from scratch, and we had many, many challenges. We only had 25 people. We only had $2,000. And we had to end up meeting in a school at the other side of Glen Allen, and a much older school that we weren't really wanting to meet in. And so we started off rough, and it was very difficult in the early days to convince people that contemporary church was actually a real church, that rock music could actually be in a church, that messages that were practical and relevant were the same thing as sermons done by pastors that simply talked about the Bible and sort of did group Bible studies. And so it was difficult. It was very challenging.
When we came here 20 years ago, we were both had just turned 30, Rick and I both, and he came to me and said, "What do you think about starting his church from scratch?" And I was like, wow, because he never talked about starting a church, so I was a little taken back by it, but I wasn't scared, and I really trusted him when he said God had told him to come to Richmond and start this church, and I was kind of excited about what God was going to do here. I definitely didn't think we would be here for 20 years. When you're that young, you just think, oh, well, we'll just do this thing for a while and see what happens.
I mean, I'm only 24. My brother's 4 years older than me. So really, it's like another sibling. I think for everybody, the church is like a family, but from my unique perspective, it's been like another sibling, and to see it grow and change and become successful in what it is today has been a great thing.
On October 24th, 1993, RCC had its first public service in 2 rooms at the Virginia Randolph School.
Wow, I came to RCC really the first day. I was here the first day 20 years ago, so that was pretty exciting. And just kind of looking for maybe a smaller church. A church I was going to was rather large, and I felt kind of lost in that, and just felt like I needed a change, and was glad God brought me here to RCC.
I came to GACC the second week that it was open 20 years ago. I really just came because we got a flyer in the mail. I had been church shopping, and I sort of went places where I felt like I didn't have enough money, or I felt like nobody talked to me. And so I said, oh, okay, I'll try another one. And we've been here ever since, and it's been a marvelous 20 years.
I came to RCC as an invitation from a friend. She had had a baby, and she explained to me that this church did baby dedications. I said, okay, I'll come to support you, but don't expect anything from me. So I came, and I was very intrigued by the pastor. I enjoyed Pastor Rick's message, and the way he spoke and the things that he talked about just reached my heart. And I'd been looking for that for a really long time.
My wife Heidi and I moved up to Richmond in 1994 in the fall. In the spring of 1995, we decided to try what was then Glen Allen Community Church. We pulled up to this old rundown school, and we happened to pick the wrong parking lot. So we parked next to this very old van, and we sat in the car trying to figure out whether we would actually be brave enough to go inside. We ended up getting out, realizing after we walked a little bit that we were in the wrong parking lot. We found all the people. Michelle greeted us, and from then it was basically history.
As Richmond Community Church grew within the walls of Virginia Randolph, its impact was also seen in the community.
I would say that I'm most proud of the fact that we are the original contemporary church, that Central Virginia doesn't have a contemporary church until we show up and bring contemporary music and modern style and casual style and messages that are relevant and innovative. Did not exist before we started this church, and now there's probably 40 or 50 churches that have started in the last 20 years specifically to be some version of a Richmond Community Church, a contemporary style, seeker style church. That's amazing. That's a legacy that lives on forever. Not to mention all the contemporary services that are now offered by traditional churches, none of which existed before this church started. That's certainly our legacy, that we started this thing, and it's now all over Central Virginia in a huge way, and it all started here with Richmond Community Church.
But when we first started the church, I pretty much did almost every position that there was, greeter, children's ministry, and then when we had a position open for leading worship, Rick asked me if I would do that. This is what we needed, and so I jumped in to fill that need.
In 1997, RCC outgrew the space at Virginia Randolph and moved to Springfield Park Elementary. Within the 5 years RCC spent at Springfield Park, it would continue to grow in numbers, impact, and add a second service.
We had it was a box truck, I know that, and we would have everything in that one truck, and we would pull that up, and everything from scratch, just an empty room to a full-blown church. At the end of service, we would put it all back into that small box truck, and it was actually pretty ingenious how they had things set up so that you could get everything in that truck, and that would be Sunday.
After searching 25 properties, RCC found the home for its Glen Allen campus, and the groundbreaking for construction of the site took place on May 21st, 2002.
Leading the campaign for the building, it was called Impact 2000, and it was just really a great experience. What an exciting time for us. A meeting in an elementary school was great. We had really fun times. We were blessed a lot, but just the idea of having a building like this was just something that was really so exciting. And so being part of that campaign, the excitement that was involved with it, and just seeing what God was doing, and just trying to really imagine what it was going to be like to have this building was almost difficult. And but here we are, and what a great building it is, and it was really a blessing for me personally to have been a part of that.
For the last 20 years, Richmond Community Church has been changing lives. This impact can be seen in the people who have attended over the years, in the community of Central Virginia, and globally through the Internet campus.
Growing up in this church, it's been 20 years. I've been here for a very long time. Growing up in this church has been amazing. It's been a huge impact in my life. Going from being in the Sunday school to going to youth group, and having these relationships with my friends that I still have today. It set a foundation for me for my life. I don't know where I would be right now if it weren't for RCC and the belief instilled in me that God is always with you and that He will never forsake you or leave you.
And 20 years is 20 years for me too. I was 11, I'm 31 now. I think that, that was really special. I have tons of special memories of coming to church and bringing friends, and, seeing my husband get baptized at church was really special for me. The first time I ever brought my baby to church, and it was like a surreal experience, teaching Sunday school and then bringing the baby and being like, wow, I'm in my church and here's my baby, and this is it's like home, and it always has been.
It has helped me to be a better person. When I started, I grew up in a church, but it had no relevance to me. Church was just the time for a history lesson, a biblical history lesson. And not only have I learned more about God, but also how to apply His principles to my daily life.
I was on church before I came to RCC. I got saved here at RCC, and my life has never been the same. It's difficult to imagine what the last 17 years of my life would have been like without Jesus Christ as my Savior.
being somebody who grew up, I was, I guess, 24 or 25 when I first came to this church, and now having children and seeing them involved is something that I'll cherish.
You know, growth, we've always said, is three kinds of growth. There's numerical growth, there's growth in quality, quantitative, qualitative, and organic growth of leadership, and that's really been incredible to see. We started out with 10 families, we have over 700 families. We have watched people grow and develop and mature. I've watched it. I've seen these people grow, some of them for 20 years, and watched them develop. I've watched leadership develop, organic growth. People that have just grown up from this church, come to Christ in this church, started to serve in this church, began to be involved in ministry, and then leadership. I mean, it's just marvelous. And so this church has been about growth in all those three areas, not just one area, but all three areas. We've been growing and we've been making an impact, and it's marvelous to be a part of.
In recent years, Richmond Community Church has had an even bigger impact in the community with our special services like Christmas Eve and Easter, our special events like Extreme Days and Fall Fest. We've also had a large impact with our Enrichment Initiative through Mission Richmond, working with Woodville, feeding the homeless, and many other opportunities we have during the year. RCC's impact has also grown globally through the Internet campus, reaching thousands of people in over 100 countries around the world.
So many lives that we've seen come from just knowing Christ, never been to church in their lives, and then staying here for 20 years and growing and flourishing and seeing their children come to Christ and seeing them baptized is just such an exciting and wonderful experience. And I just thank God every day that He allowed me to be a part of Richmond Community Church. And I know that He's got even greater things for us, greater than we've ever even thought or could imagine.
This church is called a contemporary high-impact church, and that's what we are. We're certainly contemporary, we're non-traditional, and we're about impact. And we have had an impact from impacting this area to start contemporary ministry so that now there are all these contemporary churches and services, to building a contemporary building and doing these kinds of major events that we've done that have really grabbed the attention of the news media, so that we've been in the news and on the newspaper, impacting, making Christianity and the church so much more relevant and significant. And then the impact that we've had in terms of the community, in terms of compassion, has just been absolutely marvelous, what we've been able to do and the way we've been able to help the poor and the needy, and all these marvelous things that we've done, Mission Richmond, and it's just fantastic, the things that we've been a part of. And the word impact is certainly the word that comes to mind. From the beginning to now, we've tried and we've succeeded at making a huge impact for God.